welcome. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our D6 Community Forum discussing resources for small businesses. Thank you to the Lower Polk Tenant Landlord Clinic for facilitating this discussion today. This live discussion will center around free resources that are available for small businesses in San Francisco who are at risk of eviction or who are otherwise having problems with their landlord or lease. We will also talk about additional free resources for small businesses too. Okay, so it's almost 1 year since shelter in place was announced. Enough cannot be said about 2020. We battled with a series of crises, which left cities empty of commuters, tourists, residents, and it had a devastating effect on small business. Presently, all of our businesses, I would say, are now in full startup mode, and we want to highlight the relief resources which are available to our community. So let's get started. My name is Kiniris, and I am a small business advocate. I'm an immigrant from Greece, and I actually grew up in the back of my father's grocery stores in the Mission and the Excelsior. In fact, to this day, 90% of my family is still in the small business. Since then, I had a design store in the Fillmore for 25 years, and I closed it recently to focus on the small business advocacy work that I do in San Francisco. I'm now the co-founder of NextSF, an agency that creates private-public partnerships to promote small business and the neighborhood merchant corridors of San Francisco. So why is small business important? It's obvious answer, but it's small business is big business. We like to say there are 90,000 businesses in San Francisco. Half of them are considered small business. That means they employ 10 or less employees. However, they employ over 350,000 people in San Francisco. That's over a third of the population of San Francisco. So this is huge. And it's important to remember, if we change our buying by 1% to local shopping, that will create $100 million back to the local economy. So before we start the program, we have a few housekeeping rules. Today's webinar is being recorded, so if you missed something, you can always rewatch it on YouTube. Throughout this forum, please drop your question in the chat section, and we can share with the panelists at the end of the program. We encourage everyone to tweet and repost our forum and use the social handles from the organizations that are represented here today. So now let's start the program. I'm very proud to introduce Kevin Thomason, Director of the Lower Polk Tenant Landlord Clinic. Welcome to the stage, my friend.
Thank you, Vas. It's so funny. Part of the reason that we're doing YouTube is because YouTube translates. And it's really cool because once this becomes an archive version, it puts these little subtitles, and then those automatically get translated. And let me back up a little bit. The reason why that's important is one of the things that the Tenant Landlord Clinic does is we try to reach out to as many people as possible. And we don't only do commercial, we also do residential. And we've been doing this for about 4 years. We work very closely with Carole over there at the Bar Association, and she's going to be talking in a few minutes. But what we do is it's both simple and complex. The most simple way to explain it is we try to keep people, or in this case, small businesses, which obviously are composed of people, sited where they are. And so if you have a small business, you come to us and we'll try and keep you where you are. And a lot of times that might involve negotiating with your landlord. It might involve hooking up with the appropriate city resources, such as OEWD or OSB, and we'll talk about those a little bit more later. But the idea is to help businesses stay sited in San Francisco. And actually, sometimes you may not be able to stay where you are. Like, for example, if your business is down because of COVID, like you faced a 50% loss in foot traffic for the businesses can still have foot traffic, we may be able to help you find another location with smaller square footage. Some of the people that we work with on the Bar Association end include people who are very, very experienced in commercial real estate. And so that's my little spiel for the tenant landlord clinic. We do so much, it's really hard to kind of fit it into, I think, the 7 minutes that we all have. But what I can do is I can tell people that if you're a merchant, you're in San Francisco, send an email to me. I'll give you my personal email address. It's kevin@lptlc.org. So it's kevin@lptlc.org. Send me an email and I'll try and figure out how I can help you. And then also Carole's going to come in later and she's going to give some more contact information. And then also what we're going to do, to the extent that we can, is I'll type some of this stuff over here into the chat. If it looks like I'm not paying attention, it just means that I'm over here watching the chat. So for people who have questions, and we have some people watching right now, you know, feel free to type in your questions and then I'll relay them later during the Q&A period. But anyways, that's my little story. If you have questions, come back to us later, type the questions in and we will answer them. And next I have Christian Martin, and Christian is actually somebody that I've known for a long time. He was there at the very beginning of the tenant landlord clinic back when it started up in the Lower Polk. And he's very familiar with what we do, how we operate. And he's currently the director of the SOMA West Community Benefit District, has a great interest in helping businesses in the SOMA district, and also just generally D6, because so much of D6 is in SOMA, you know, continue to at least recover, if not thrive, as the economy opens back up. So without further ado, Christian Martin.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I'm quite proud of the progress that the TLC has made over the past few years. Happy to be a part of that. So for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Christian Martin. I'm the director of the SOMA West Community Benefit District, and we are one of the city's 17 community benefit districts. And a primary objective of SOMA West is fostering a healthy, sustainable, diverse, and prosperous local economy. And we collaborate and work closely with various levels of local and regional economic development organizations, developers, real estate brokers, private firms, philanthropic foundations, destination management organizations, nonprofits, state and federal government agencies, while we represent the specific and unique needs and challenges of SOMA. So additionally, we're beginning to ramp up our efforts to recruit and retain businesses in order to maintain a diverse mix of commercial and residential development, facilitate the built environment that is accessible for all users to live, work, play, visit, and invest. And you know, our focus is predominantly recovery now from the pandemic. So what that looks like, 7 days a week, cleaning and maintenance is our kind of primary business, you know, the primary thing we provide for business. So that's proactive sweeping, pressure washing, bulk trash removal. We've integrated with 311 so that cleaning requests, maintenance requests are responded to within minutes, what usually would take hours or days, if ever. So we've got a rapid response to the various issues that face the business community, which include graffiti removal, the notices of violation that come in from the city. If you're within our district, please send those to us and we'll send somebody out to take care of that. Other maintenance issues include, you know, if your sidewalk is chipped like Ted's Market was, and you're getting harassed by the city, we'll send somebody out to patch it. We've fabricated plastic sewer covers for the sidewalks, so the vandals don't kind of tear them open and steal them and scrap the metal. What else? We've been greening, planting trees and putting planters out, big belly trash cans that keep the trash in. So basically, anything that helps maintain cleanliness and order. Most recently, we've launched our evening ambassador program. So we've got eyes and ears on the street cleaning and making sure things are in order from 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. So if you want a safe escort from your business to your car, or somebody's doing something that is dangerous or a threat to your safety, please reach out to us, and we have ambassadors on call during those hours. So beyond that, we are ramping up our marketing efforts. So we are producing, short videos highlighting the unique special businesses that make SOMA what it is. So if you're interested in that, please contact us. We'll be happy to feature your business. We are also happy to advocate for you with city government, recology, any bureaucratic entity that poses an obstacle to your prosperity. So going forward, we're looking to participate in the Grow with Google program, which will allow for businesses to easily get found online, reach more customers, sell online, and work remotely, as the pandemic has forced us all into the digital age. So basically anything you can imagine that can help kind of facilitate in this kind of crazy time we're all living through. Don't hesitate to reach out to the SOMA West CBD. Our phone number is 415-960-7228 for service requests, and the evening number is 415-937-4668. My name is Christian. I'm the director. My email is christian@swcbd.org, and I'm happy to connect with you. So with that, I'll throw it back to Voss. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian. It's a huge CBD as well. I think it's the largest CBD in the city, right?
It is 107 blocks, and we collect about 50,000 pounds of trash every month. So it's big in land mass, but also the workload. So
yeah, and I know you're doing a really good job highlighting the businesses to the residents, because a lot of the commerce that was happening in SOMA was commuters and tourists, and a lot of those people are gone now. So it's really important we highlight these businesses to the residents in the area. So let's I'd like to introduce my friend now, Miriam Zouzounis. She's actually the Vice President of San Francisco Small Business Commission. She is also an entrepreneur, and she's also an advocate for immigrant-owned small businesses. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Voz, and thank you, everyone, for this production. So glad that we get to converse on how to better support small businesses, and shout out to Christian and the SOMA West team for the incredible work they're doing in an industrial part of town that really doesn't get a lot of attention prior to this point. So yeah, we've been definitely increasing referrals between pre-existing merchant groups and CBDs, and I think that that's definitely something, Christian, that I'd love to build on, like how we can bridge that advocacy and how community benefit districts can help small businesses learn how to interact with the city, because really I think that's one of the problems that we find is the underlying issue with a lot of this, things that come up for small businesses. there's resources, but they don't know how to access them, right? So I think the Office of Small Business is always the best go-to for order of operations as a business, whether it's, what do I do? I received this notice. What do? I want to, you know, start this type of business or add to my business model. We have also within the Small Business Commission and the Office of Small Business, there's a rent stabilization fund for legacy businesses. So and also a lot of marketing support. So if you know a business that has been around 30 plus years, and there may be up and coming legislation to even lessen that rubric for businesses that have been around, say 15 years, encourage them to reach out to the Office of Small Business Legacy Business Program, because they could very much be able to access support for ADA, so accessible entryway, rent stabilization, and marketing for a lot of old school businesses that otherwise wouldn't have access to tools like that. So another thing the Office of Small Business and the Office of Economic and Workforce Development have is some programming related to succession planning. And that is also a really important thing for small businesses who are a lot of the time seniors, and or, you know, their business is tapped as a soft site for a development or something like that. And we want them to be able to retire and know, you know, the best path for a sale or relocation. And so succession planning and even pathways to ownership is something that not just the city is trying to support in, but a lot of trade groups like META, Mission Economic Development Agency. So we're seeing groups like trade groups and merchant groups take on a lot more in the tenant commercial landlord realm, where, you know, they are needing to hire lawyers in-house to service their members' needs. Like I said, META is one example of that. An organization that I'm also part of, the Neighborhood Business Alliance, which was born out of the Arab American Grocers Association and a lot of the kind of ethnic business networks that just needed additional technical assistance because, you know, regulatory licenses that they hold trigger some additional planning code or whatnot, and they often find themselves needing to deal with their landlord, whether it's a loitering violation or whatnot. So I think as we move towards how do we increase our equity lens when it comes to tenant landlord, commercial landlord situations, I would say we need to make sure that like SF shines, shared spaces, tables and chairs waivers, all those are available to businesses that, let's be frank, people don't like people loitering.
Oh, I think Miriam just froze. Should we kick it to the supervisor? Yes, okay. So while we're waiting for Miriam to get back online again, we have a very special guest tonight. D6 is very fortunate to have Matt Haney, and he's going to give us an overview of the district. And I know you're all going to have so many questions for him. So welcome to the stage, Supervisor.
The stage, exciting.
The stage.
I have my prince behind me here, so this is about as close to the stage as I get these days. So
it's a metaphor.
But soon enough, our stages are going to be back, especially with the funds that we put in for venues yesterday. So you know, I am very grateful to be here with you all, and thank you for bringing us together for this and providing resources and support to our small businesses who have been through so much, you know, over the last year, and have just, you know, the closures and the reopening and the support and the lack of support and the challenges of not having any predictability or adequate amount of resources, loss of revenue. So I just want to just send my solidarity to all of our small businesses, and also say that there is additional help that's coming. I'm sure, as you all have shared, we are really, and I have now, not only in my capacity as the supervisor of District 6, but as chair of the budget committee, just really wanted to focus whatever support and resources we had and providing them to our small businesses, in additional grants, in additional funding, in additional opportunities, deferring and waiving all of the possible fees that we could, really making sure that our departments are thinking about their role more in terms of support, rather than often sometimes feeling like they're coming down on our small businesses. Now is the time, I think, especially coming out of COVID and during COVID, that we really change that relationship, and that we have a relationship with our small businesses that are much more supportive. I do want to say a word about a couple things that are sort of broader as it relates to D6, because I was kind of given the role of giving a little bit of an overview of how things are going, or what are some of the things that are happening in our district. You may have been aware that I've been focused a lot on the vaccine rollout and making sure that we get more access to the vaccine throughout our district. We do have the Moscone site. We are having some additional sites coming to District 6, and really making sure that people have access to the vaccine. We are now at a third of our adult population in San Francisco vaccinated. As a result of that and a lot of other things, we are going to be able to go into orange next week, it sounds like, almost certainly, and begin to see a greater reopening of a number of things in our city. And I think we are absolutely on the right path because of that work and the hard work of not only our city, but all of our small businesses, all of our residents who have been working so hard to keep others healthy. We are now at, I believe, roughly an average of 33 cases a day in the whole city. That's very low, very few deaths this month. I think only 1 or 2 deaths in all of March. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And I feel like we are going to stay moving in the right direction. We can finally say that confidently. With that said, as we begin to reopen, some of the challenges that we've had as a district continue to be endemic. And those are my focus and have been my focus as supervisor. Untreated drug addiction and mental illness are still, I think, some of the biggest issues that we face. We have rolled out the first set of street crisis response teams, and we're going to be expanding funding for that so that we have 6 full-time, 7-day-a-week street crisis response teams to respond to behavioral health needs on our streets. I've also been putting more funds in for addressing drug addiction and some of the challenges that we have on our streets that are drug related. And we were able to include some of that in the funding package that we put forward. We brought in over 2,000 people into our shelter in place hotels. And a lot of my work has been not only getting those open, but keeping them open and keeping the rooms available so that people can continue to go in those hotels, and that when people are exiting the hotels, they're not exiting to the street, but they're exiting to housing. And so I passed legislation recently that is going to help bring in, over the next 60 days, which now is about the next 40 days, about 400 to 600 new people off the streets. And, I know there are still far too many people who are homeless on our streets, but we have made some progress. As you all know, there were huge encampments throughout the Tenderloin, throughout south of Market, Stevenson Street, Willow, down on Main, across King. We had 400 plus tents in the Tenderloin in the summer of last year. It got down to a low of 30. Again, there's still a lot of people out there who we need to get inside, but we have made progress. And I know that is a team effort that is not only the city, but it's also our CBDs, I know, who are represented here, who also help tremendously with that. And speaking of CBDs, our real focus continuing to be on clean streets. We are going to have a Department of Sanitation and Streets, which will get going soon. We continue to expand the number of 24-hour bathrooms, trash cans, pressure washing across the entire district, particularly in the Tenderloin and Lower Polk. Our parks are such an important part. I know I can see Macaulay Park from where I am right now, and how important that park is, and Turk and Hyde, and we've been able to invest in some stewardship for those parks, and we're going to continue to. The shared spaces, I'm one of the co-authors of the shared spaces legislation with the mayor and a few other supervisors, and I'm really excited about what the activation of our commercial corridors can mean for our small businesses and our residents. And we also want to be creative about that. We want to have small businesses, but we want also more public parklets. We want some of these shared spaces to be managed by arts organizations and community organizations and mini playgrounds. And I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity for creativity and how we use and activate our space across the district. You know, there are challenges, and there's a street level drug dealing task force that I'm working a lot on, and their recommendations to try to deal with those issues in our neighborhood, and public safety, and of course is a focus. But I do think that we have some things that we can be hopeful about as we recover and have light at the end of the tunnel as it relates to COVID, but also begin to address some of the other challenges that we've had, whether around homelessness, mental illness, clean streets, supporting our small businesses. Those are things that I think that we have some positive things that are happening. And if we stay the course on those things, I think our city will be a much better place, and our neighborhoods in Lower Polk, in the Tenderloin, South of Market, Mid-Market, will be safer, cleaner, healthier, more vibrant places for our small businesses and for everyone who either lives or visits or works here. So with that, I will turn it back over, and I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Thank you, Supervisor. You know, if I might add, D6 is a huge, diverse territory, you know, and you really hit the nail on the head, because the biggest challenge right now for small business, for merchant corridors in the city, is we need to demonstrate that we're safe, clean, and fun to be in again. So that's why a lot of these shared spaces and closed streets are really demonstrating that. And it's really bringing people out into the corridor, and it's enticing businesses to reopen, the ones that have shuttered. And it's also enticing new entrepreneurs to open businesses in these corridors as well, because safety is the #1 concern for small business, and then maintenance, and then finally marketing. So thank you, Supervisor. We're going to hold the questions until after all the panelists speak. So we're going to take it now to Carole Conn. She's the director of the San Francisco Bar Association, and she'll tell us a little bit about what she does.
Thank you, Voss. I'm actually the director of the Conflict Intervention Service at the Bar Association of San Francisco, and I direct a few other public service programs. But thank you, Kevin Thomason, for pulling us all together in one place. This is quite an honor to be on a panel with all of you. I would like to just give a brief introduction to what the Conflict Intervention Service is as a resource to the merchant community, and then explain a little bit about dispute resolution, because as we know, the pandemic has pushed people into spaces they never thought they would be in terms of not being able to pay rent, not being able to keep the doors open, having to lay off staff, and so on. So I want to just speak generally. The Conflict Intervention Service is actually available. It's going into its 5th year now of existence. It is grant funded through the City and County of San Francisco. And we manage and help to resolve conflicts between landlords and tenants in both the residential and the commercial sectors. We've recently partnered with OEWD in order to be able to do that in this unprecedented time. And really what this is about is trying to find access points for resolution to resolve issues of rent, resolve strife between landlords and tenants, and follow otherwise what has become available as protections under the moratorium, that businesses not be evicted, that they have certain ways in which they can plan for and repay what back rent is owed, and so on. So we are sort of one-stop shop, I like to say, in the sense that there's really no downside to calling us. We are free and available. We have an operating helpline that takes messages 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long, holidays, weekends, partly because we recognize that the first step to de-escalating conflict is to respond quickly. We find that's already the first step toward resolution. We provide a full continuum of services from what we call conflict coaching and communication strategies in speaking just with the person having the conflict, but we often try to broker a conversation with the other side. So generally speaking, it might be a commercial tenant that calls. We're going to try to reach out to that landlord, depending again on the conflict. It might be that we never bring the parties together if that's the best route to resolving the differences, or we might bring people together. We are operating fully online, always have been from the beginning on Zoom. When we all had to transition quickly, we didn't have a ramp up time in that respect and learning these wonderful features on Zoom. So we can, through email and write, through email and phone and Zoom, we engage and get in the middle of conflict. We really want to create a timeout. We want temperatures to come down. We want to really do a situational analysis. We go step by step. We learn as much information as we possibly can that can be helpful. And then we look to try to broker those entryways, to break open impasse, to reframe certain statements, to get communication more constructive, and ideally to preserve the relationship. Because this is at the heart of what mediation is. It's about relationship repair. And especially in situations, as we see now, where there's added pressures and different other, very dire considerations, those relationships can fray. And so honestly, especially if a business is to come back and go into the future from here, I want to preserve that relationship at all costs. Quickly, a few words just about what mediation is. We don't take sides. We're not pro-landlord or pro-tenant. We're actually pro both sides. We look to really be in the middle and advocate communication and resolution. We have a rapid response model, as I was referencing before, where we're really looking to get in there quickly to de-escalate the conflicts. On our team, we have a special core commercial team right now. Combined between all the years of experience is a ridiculous number of over 90 years of experience of commercial real estate experience on our mediation panel. So I invite people to call us. Mediation is a voluntary and completely confidential process. There's no harm, as I like to say, in talking to us. We don't broadcast anything you say to anyone. I think I'll leave it there. Our information is in the chat. Again, our helpline is 415-782-8940. And certainly too, I'd like to just reflect, as have many on the panel, that we also are a referral hub. We are connected in with the different other resources available to support small business, to sustain small businesses in San Francisco. And we work in collaboration with those other entities and resources to bring about as stably cited a resolution as we can.
Thank you, Carole. Thank you for sharing. By the way, Miriam, before we got interrupted, did you want to finish what you were saying, or?
Sorry, my internet went out. My electricity actually as a whole. But no, I mean, thank you to Supervisor Haney and to Carole for your most recent comments and all the work you're doing in the district. The only thing that I was going to add was, I mean, especially now laws are being passed so quickly and in high quantity. So it's even more important that we make sure people have they know of the resources available to them. And as much as there's proactive outreach on behalf of your organizations and your offices, it's always good to extend beyond who your existing partner list is and try to find communities that are represented by informal networks, whether they're cultural or sector based, and make sure the informal or cultural leadership can help get out those memos, like the hotline and all that stuff, which is, you know, important. Why merchant groups are often connected to kind of cultural business networks, and so to make that jump, sometimes you'll get a lot more businesses in the know than just going through a traditional source. So I'm, you know, happy to help connect to any of the cultural business networks in our district. I know, you know, the Tenderloin Merchants Association is a really important resource because they are based in a lot of the ethnic merchant communities as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to continuing referrals and triaging this work with you all.
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of the small businesses in the Tenderloin are special because the people that you see working at the counter, those are the owners. So that's different. So I just want to thank everyone for sharing all the important work you're doing for the small business community. And I think we all know that uncertainty is the greatest threat to business. And now is the time to pool our resources, share information with one another, with the community, with the merchants. But we're fortunate to be in San Francisco because our business environment is very collaborative and the startup culture is really part of our DNA. And it's no wonder that the Phoenix is San Francisco's symbol. So we've kind of hit a wall, but we're going to get through this. So now I'd like to start the Q&A portion. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat section. And I have some questions for the supervisor. So you're the first one. So I have a question. So how are we going to revive this neighborhood economically? What is your vision for that?
Wow, it started off with an easy question, huh?
Easy.
That's a lot to put
Okay.
PBS, 60 minutes.
Broad strokes.
Well, you know, I think that you mean the Tenderloin specifically, or?
You know, your district is very diverse. So in general, yeah.
All right.
Start with the Tenderloin.
Okay. Well, you know, I represent a district that I think has had a lot of economic challenges before COVID. Obviously, we have the highest rate of poverty in District 6 of anywhere in the city, the lowest median income. So we have a lot of people who are shut out from a lot of the prosperity in our city. But then we also have a huge amount of growth and opportunities and some of the biggest developments. We had a development project, which will be the fourth big tower highest tower in San Francisco, approved this week, an over $1 billion project. And so we have to, on the one hand, you know, connect the dots there so that our small businesses, so that all of our residents are benefiting from the incredible and tremendous wealth that is here. And I think that we need to do a better job of that. You know, at the same time as I think and I talked a bit about this, we have to make it a more friendly place to do business for small businesses so they really feel supported. That means, you know, not shouldering them all the time with all these different fees and taxes and burdens and everything that make it really hard to open a business here and do business here. Give them flexibility to do creative things like what we're doing with shared spaces, so that they can use their own entrepreneurship and ingenuity to do different things and be supported in it. You know, and give them protections so that they can do that and not have somebody always coming down on them. And then I think for our neighborhood, you know, we talked about this, that, you know, addressing the untreated mental illness and drug addiction, the homelessness, really focusing on, you know, a clean, safe, and healthy neighborhoods. As you said, the top concerns for a lot of small businesses are safety related, and too often the solutions that we have are not the right ones, and a lot of that has been, you know, if somebody is mentally ill or addicted to drugs, and the only option you have is the police, and the police come out and they go, I can't really do anything for this person. I can't really help this person. I'm just going to tell them to go away. And then them going away just means they just walk over, and maybe the next business has a challenge with. So we have to get to sustainable solutions so that people really get help and they get treatment if that's what they need, or shelter. And so we now have, I believe, the systems and the resources that we're designing to be able to do that effectively. And so those things have to be done if our businesses are going to strive, at the same time as we get out of their way when they want to do creative things, and not burden them so much. And then, as I said, making the connection in our district, at least, between the fact that there is tremendous growth in resources, but it has to be shared more widely. That means when contracts come about, when opportunities come about, when spaces come about, how do we get our actual small businesses and entrepreneurs into that?
Absolutely. You know, and I should just add that back in the day, I started my business in the Tenderloin, and I used to be a resident of the Tenderloin. And in many ways, the Tenderloin is a business incubator. You can realize your dream of a small business there because your overhead is not that, it's not a lot of overhead. And you can afford to make mistakes in the Tenderloin, whereas other neighborhoods, you don't have that. So yeah, I started my business with a $1,500 investment back in the day. So there's still opportunities in the Tenderloin. Let's see, I have, Kevin, do you have any questions that you'd like to share? Or I've got more questions that are being sent to me, so.
I'm watching the chat. I put in some stuff about Carole. I also wanted to thank Supervisor Haney for coming on here. We had a pre-thing and we were like, and let's not do the CBS 60 Minutes thing. Because I'm trying to get another supervisor to do another one of these later, and they're probably watching this, so I don't want them to think that we're going to pounce. But I do agree. I think that and I think that this is really a good discussion. I was kind of hoping this would turn out more like a podcast, and it has. What I'm hearing is kind of what I've always thought, which is to kind of help the merchants. The entire neighborhood has to be helped, and you do it at multiple channels. So like what Carole and I do, and I'm going to ask a leading question, because when I was a lawyer, I used to do this all the time in depositions, and I always got objected to. But Carole, isn't it true that we also work together? Because she had texted me and she's like, oh, darn it, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I really don't want there to be a minute more that goes by without saying what a tremendous collaboration it has been with the Lower Polk TLC. And honestly, Kevin is a go-to resource for all kinds of resources from there. He does initial triage on a lot of situations. He also can patch people really seamlessly to other resources, including the CIS. We work very tightly together that way. So yeah, sort of being born of the Lower Polk, but emerging now citywide to assist small business. It's quite a tremendous undertaking and really a wonderful resource. So always contact Kevin if you need things.
Thank you. Well, and Carole, isn't it also true that the way what was discussed here, which is the way to kind of revitalize a given area in the city, would work on multiple channels? So you'd work with the tenant landlord relationship to ensure the sustainability of the business. You would work with what the supervisors talked about with making it easier to do business. You'd work within, as Miriam has pointed out, you'd work within the business community itself to kind of share information among the businesses. And it was also pointed out by the supervisor that there's a need to kind of also just have more information flowing among the businesses so that once one business learns something, it's almost like all the businesses come together like a learning organization. So I might be overthinking this, but it seems to me that all this stuff would work together kind of simultaneously. And it's not any one thing, it's a multiple of things. And that's kind of what's cool about having the people here is kind of we have little samplings of each of those different tracks. So anyways, that's my little spiel.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think we should wrap it up. We're coming to a close. Do any of the panelists have questions for one another? Miriam.
Supervisor Haney, I know that OEWD has issued a whole bunch of RFPs for workforce stuff, a lot related to commercial landlord resources. I would love to know where those RFPs get settled and how we can then direct businesses to whoever got them, whether it's a nonprofit or a consultant or a neighborhood organization. Since I know a lot of those go to individual consultants who may be not necessarily embedded in those business communities. So I would love, if there would be some way that OEWD at the end of everything be awarded, kind of have, here are the resources and here are where they're housed that we can share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there's a way that I can help share the outcomes of those and make sure that they are actually doing what they've got the funds for, which is delivering a way of access and that people know about it, is really important. So absolutely, thank you for flagging that.
Awesome. So attendees, guests, please reach out to these panelists if you have any questions. We'd love to hear from you. But I want to thank you all for attending again. This is a time of renewal and growth. Through dialogue, we can develop more meaningful collaborations to help promote innovation and get us through this crisis. A big thank you to our community partners and to the Lower Polk Tenant Landlord Clinic for helping facilitate this conversation. We encourage everyone to get to know your community, get to know your merchants, and get involved. And individuals make a huge difference. So just want to say the weather looks like it's going to clear up for the weekend. So go out, enjoy shared spaces, our slow streets, and also our closed streets as well. And remember to shop small and shop local. And have a nice night. Until next time.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Please indulge me. I want to
Thanks,
take a picture of
everyone.
you guys.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Oh,
Bob.
shoot, I think I blinked, Foss.
Oh, no. Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.